I'm Bill Feely, and welcome to another edition of MSATP TV. Joining us this morning is Jim Arnie, our legislative guru, who tracks all the bills and everything else for us during the legislative session of the Maryland General Assembly. So, Jim, why don't you tell us what's going on down in Annapolis?
Okay, well, today is obviously March the 25th, and this time last year, the General Assembly adjourned because of the COVID. They only were in session 71 days. So we're kind of like right at that stage where they adjourned last year, 19 days left. And from my perspective, I would like to say that I think this session has been very quiet, very smooth, and even keel. And there's probably a number of reasons for that. But first, I want to say that through today, there have been 2,347 total bills introduced this session. When you look at this time last year, there were 2,745. So almost 400 bills fewer this year compared to last year. And then I went back to 2019, where it was a full session. And in 2019, there were 2,481 bills. So that's just about 134 bills more in 19 than this year. And then I looked at the bills that the society reviews that would be applicable, affecting the society or their clients and so forth. And this year we've reviewed 174 bills. Last year was 222. And in 2019, it was 207. So you can see their focus this year has been more on other things as opposed to tax matters. I think says that. I know one of their big projects this year is police reform from that perspective. And of the 174 bills that we've reviewed, 64 were applicable to personal income tax, which is 36% of the total of the 174. Last year, of the 222, 73 were personal income tax. That was 33%. And in 2019, of the 207 bills reviewed, 75 were related to personal income tax, which was 36%. So you can see that percentage of personal bills to total tax-related bills, it stays pretty steady from year to year in that 33, 35% range. What I'd like to do now is go over the bills in what I now call the active tracking report. These are bills that the society has been tracking, and Monday was that courtesy cutover date where each house passes the bills that they and those bills get moved over to the opposite house that house of origin would like to have passed this year. And that eliminates the need for the society to look at bills that are just sitting dormant in committees. It reduced actually on my tracking report was 11 pages. This one is 2.
Oh, wow.
So you can see the impact that has. The first bill I want to touch base on, and I'm just going to do a courtesy quick overview, is House Bill 10. This was a subtraction modification for living organ donors, and that also had a cross-filed bill of Senate Bill 48. Each bill is passed, as I said, the House of Origin, now on the other side. This bill basically increases that subtraction modification from $7,500 to $10,000, and it altered the definition of qualified expenses because it added in any unreimbursed expenses for childcare. For example, if say a mother or a father, it doesn't matter, is donating an organ, and while they're in the hospital recovering, they hire someone to be with the kids while they're home during the day and so forth. But it increases the unreimbursed expenses for childcare, elder care, and medication. And we'll see where that goes.
So does that apply to Maryland? real quick, does that apply to Maryland citizens, or does the organ donation procedure need to take place in Maryland?
Well, it'd be Maryland citizens that are filing a Maryland tax return.
Okay,
The next one is and we discussed this one somewhat at length, House Bill 148. That's the Personal Information Protection Act, where it used to be that if you owned or licensed a list or a report, then you were responsible for certain things. Now they've added another category in that if you maintain that database and it gets breached. And we discussed, I think last time, pretty much in depth of what those alternatives were or alterations to that initial law regarding security. House Bill 647, that's corporations and associations. That's the fees for processing articles of dissolution and certificates of cancellation, to repeal that provision of law. So if a business submitted a dissolution form, cancellation, there was a fee, that would be at no cost now. So we'll have to see what action the Senate takes on that.
probably help a lot of businesses to close down the right way rather than just letting their charter forfeit.
Right. The next one is House Bill 711, and that has a cross-file bill Senate Bill 622. This is a subtraction modification for donations to diaper banks and other charitable entities. And you would get a subtraction modification for up to $1,000 when you donate certain disposable diapers, hygiene products, and monetary gifts made during the taxable year to those. Those organizations have to be registered with the Department of Human Services, and they would then qualify if you make those types of donations. And the facilities would be like homeless shelters and things of that nature. Churches also get into that program. So that would give a subtraction modification up to $1,000.
Okay.
Senate Bill 48, that's the living order or organ donor program that we spoke in conjunction with House Bill 10. The Senate Bill 141, that was the bill dealing with the State Board of Public Accountancy. All that was just changing the names of the organizations that the colleges, universities have to be a member of to award the program in accounting. And it's passed the Senate side and now moved over to the House. The House had their hearing on Tuesday, the 23rd. Senate Bill 622, that's the cross-file bill to the House Bill 711, the diaper bank program that we just spoke about. The one I want to mention, I think I spoke about it maybe the last time, was Senate Bill 218. This has gone into law. It was passed and presented to the governor. He did not sign it, but under the Constitution, if they're in session and a bill is presented to him, he has 6 days, excluding Sundays, in which to either veto it or explain why he's not signing it. He let it go through, so it became law automatically as Chapter 40, and that became effective March the 5th. And this is that child tax credit program. It does two things. It makes taxpayers eligible for the earned income tax credit. And I believe to do that on the federal side, you have to have a Social Security number.
Right.
This bill excludes that provision of the federal law.
Okay.
So if a taxpayer has an I-10, because they don't qualify for the Social Security number, they would still be entitled to participate in the earned income tax credit program. And also, this bill created a refundable credit against the state income tax equal to $500 for each dependent child who is a qualified dependent under IRS guidelines of Section 152. They're under the age of 17 and have a disability. So to qualify, the taxpayer must have a federal adjusted gross income of $6,000 or less.
Okay,
Then they would be able to qualify for that credit. And this credit is available for tax years 2020 through 2022.
okay, so it's a retroactive one for last year.
Yeah, this is an emergency bill.
Okay,
And the last one I wanted to touch on is one that we were not tracking, but I go back and try to review things. And this is also a cross-filed bill, Senate Bill 133 or House Bill 319. It's entitled, to me, is a little tricky. It's Local Tax Relief for Working Families Act of 2021. And what this bill does, it would allow local governments to increase their local tax after the 2021 tax year. And if they do that, the bill will allow them, well, the bill would require them, the minimum local tax rate is set at 2.25, which is what Worcester County's local tax rate is now. But it would also allow them to increase up to 3.5% as the maximum rate that a county can charge. Highest rate now under the current law is 3.2%.
And that would be automatic? They wouldn't have to go back to the state to have that approved?
No, I mean, if this bill passes, then they can do it, but they've got to go do it through resolution and so forth, just like the current law says, and then notify the comptroller's office by July 1st, preceding the year that the increase takes effect. And that's the same thing now with local tax rates. If they increase for counties like Worcester County, if they want to change from 2.25 under the current law and go up to 2.50, and it gets passed by resolution, then they have to notify the comptroller by July 1st,
Okay,
preceding the year. But the catchy thing with this is if a county does this, they have to apply the local tax rate. That they would be enabled to apply the local tax rate by brackets. Like the state tax is. And if a county goes above the 3.2%, it must be in the bracket. Let me go back and phrase it this way. The highest state bracket is 5.75% on income above $250,000 for single, $300,000 for a married filing joint.
okay,
So the law says if a local government increases above the 3.2%, it has to be on an income level that is double what the Maryland state tax rate is at their highest level, which is the 250, greater than 250. So it would have to apply for a single person on income above 500,000 and on a married filing joint on Maryland taxable income above 600,000, double what the states are.
okay.
So that's pretty much where we are right now. We'll see what happens on these bills in the next 10 to 15 days. Like I said, there's 19 days left. in this year's session. And
Okay.
I wanted to say also, I think the reason why this session has been so smooth is probably, I can think of 3 potential or possible reasons. One,
Okay.
due to COVID, nobody is allowed into the Senate and House buildings except the delegates, senators, and staff. So John Q. Public, lobbyists, and so forth, I think are obviously not there and taking up less of their time. So they have more time. Yeah, they get phone calls, they get emails and so forth, but they have staff that can handle a lot of those applications. The second reason is, in my opinion, is I think Speaker Jones's second full year as Speaker of the House, and it's Senator Ferguson's first year without President Miller obviously being present. He was present last year and sat on the Budget and Taxation Committee. But I think this may be a sign of the guidance of the new regime, so to speak, or the new leadership. Shouldn't we use regime, but the new leadership. And the third thing is, as you and I discussed, Bill, there were over 800 pre-filed bills this session. Never seen that many pre-filed bills in my life. And I think that helped smooth the way that a lot of background work could be accomplished, because on day one, when those bills were introduced, you could actually read the bill on the website. So the people that are doing the technology portion of it had obviously been busy getting that ready to go, up and running, because the session started on January the 13th. The next day, committees were having hearings.
Now, has the budget been passed yet?
Not yet. That has to be done within the next, I think it's like seven days before the session ends. But there's no controversy on this year's budget from what I've read.
Okay. As far as once they get the budget and everything passed, is there time for them to still legislate other bills that are pending? So do you expect a lot of bills to be passed at the last minute?
It would only be, I think, the bills that we covered that's already passed the House of Origin.
Okay.
Because when they pass the House of Origin, the only person that testifies is the sponsor of the bill.
Okay.
They've got all the documentation from what the proponents or opponents stated or expressed from the House of Origin. So
Right.
they don't need to replicate that or duplicate it. So they just listen to the bill sponsor. And as you can see, a number of these bills were cross-filed bills, and they've already passed the
Both
House.
houses.
So
Okay.
it's just basically a matter of formality
Okay.
at this
So,
stage.
right. When it's all said and done with, approximately how many of the bills that were introduced do you think will become law this year?
Oh,
Or there's
my.
no way of telling.
I guess if I tracked all bills, but I don't, obviously
okay.
track all bills and so forth.
Right. Okay.
Let me see. I don't know if let me see if the website shows anything of that category. I know they do have a link in there that you can see the bills that's passed as it goes along. Bills passed by both chambers. No, they don't show anything.
Okay. I was just curious, that's all. No particular reason.
Let me see. There's only one. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There's 42 bills that's passed in the Chamber of Origin.
Okay,
So that's not a lot considering over 2,000 bills introduced.
right.
A little surprising.
Right. Is there anything that we as accountants need to be on the lookout for with any of the bills that are pending that are going to hurt us this year that you think have a chance of passing?
I don't think so. And the last one that I spoke about, the local tax, it can
Right,
allow them to increase. And if they do, they have to do it by bracket method and so forth.
right.
That takes effect for tax year 2022.
Oh, okay,
So next year, you don't have to be worrying about it because next year we'll be doing the 2021 tax year.
right. Okay,
So, and obviously that the counties have to have time to get their ducks in a row and work things out and so forth, and then get the resolutions completed and get the information to the controller so that software companies can begin doing their
okay.
programming.
Have we heard anything about the new forms yet for the comptroller's office that are coming out?
No, I keep looking for the UL. Is it UL or LU form? I keep reversing it.
Yeah, right.
And I did talk to Sharon, the deputy controller, and she assured me that she would, as soon as it became available, was going to get a copy to the society
Okay,
to get your feedback on as well.
okay. Because I haven't seen anything on it yet. And
No,
I also went to the comptroller's site this morning and I couldn't find anything on it.
I couldn't either.
So
And I
we're
think-
still in limbo with filing Maryland tax returns.
Yes,
If we have any of those additional subtraction modifications.
exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons that Controller Francho went out and extended the filing deadline to July 15th because of that.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, I appreciate your time this morning, Jim. You know,
My
it's
pleasure.
always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking to you and listening to what you have to say. We are going to try to get another legislative update session scheduled right around the end of the term. And there's a couple of bills that were vetoes were overridden, which are now becoming law. And maybe we can talk about those next time as well.
Yes, that'll be my focus next time.
Okay. Well, sounds great. Well, again,
Sure.
thank you very much for joining us this morning and giving us your time. I appreciate it. Thank
My
you.
pleasure, Bill.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too. See you all.
Bye.